name is Tom. Today's English class was truly special. Our teacher told us to stand up and share how we learn English. My heart started beating fast. I looked around and saw many of my classmates looking down, seeming shy. I was a little nervous too, but then I thought, this is a great chance for me to share. I took a deep breath and walked to the front of the class. The whole class fell silent and watched me. I began, "Hi everyone, my name is Tom. Today I want to talk about learning English." My voice was still shaking a little. I told them about my first few days. Before, I was so scared to speak English. Every time the teacher called on me, I just wanted to disappear. I know many of you here are like me. We want to speak English better, but don't know where to start. Many of my classmates nodded. Their eyes seemed to show a similar struggle. I knew they were facing the same difficulties I did. I continued. Do you want to speak English better? Then it's time to glow up your English. That means make your English stronger, better, and more confident. I paused for a moment, looking into each person's eyes. Many people think you have to go to a big school or pay a lot of money to learn. But that's not true. You can start learning right at home. I talked about the simple methods I tried. You can watch English movies with subtitles. At first, I watched Disney cartoons because the dialogue was simple. Then I moved on to action movies. I listened to English songs and tried to understand the words. I read simple books or short stories in English. These small things helped me a lot. From fear to confidence, I saw many of my classmates taking notes in their notebooks. That made me feel more confident. And one more important thing, I said a little louder, is to try to speak English every day. The class started to whisper. One person quietly said, "Who can I talk to?" I smiled and answered that unspoken question. You don't need someone to talk to. You can talk to yourself in the mirror. At first, I said very simple
Hello, my friends.
sentences like,
My
"I am
name
learning
is Tom,
English,"
and welcome
or
back to King
"Today is a
English
good day."
Podcast. I am really happy to have you here today because we are going to talk about something every learner struggles with. The title of today's episode is How to Remember English Words Easily. This is your English listening practice podcast that helps you learn and improve naturally, step by step, without stress. Let's be honest. Nobody really talks about how frustrating it is to memorize English words. You learn a new word today, and then tomorrow it is gone. You look at your notes and think, why can't my brain just keep it? I know the feeling. Some people seem to remember words without even trying. They hear it once, and it sticks forever. For others, it feels like a battle. But here is the truth. It is not your fault. Everyone's brain works a little differently. The reason you struggle is probably because you have not found the method that works best for you. For anyone new here, let me quickly introduce us. I am Emily, and with me is Liam. Together, we host English and Comfort. This is the place where you can learn English slowly, clearly, and without stress. There are no confusing grammar rules here, just simple methods that work. Today, we have gathered some of the most effective tricks, exercises, and tools to help you remember words more easily. Whether you are just beginning your English journey or you have been studying for years, these tips will make a big difference. So, get comfortable, pour yourself a cup of tea, and let's begin. The first method is learning words in context. Now, if you are new, context may sound like a complicated word, but it is very simple. Learning in context means you do not study a word alone. Instead, you learn it inside sentences, conversations, or real-life situations. Think of context as the story that surrounds a word. For example, if I just say the word bank, you might think of a riverbank or maybe a financial bank. But if I say, I need to deposit my paycheck at the bank, then the meaning is crystal clear. Our brains are designed to remember stories and experiences much better than random facts. Think about it. Do you remember what you had for lunch 3 Tuesdays ago? Probably not. But I bet you remember the time your friend spilled coffee on their shirt right before a big meeting. That is because it was a story. It had images, emotions, maybe even a smell. Words work in exactly the same way. Here is the problem with learning words in isolation. Let's say you memorize the word bright as shining. That is fine, but in English, bright can also mean intelligent, like she is a bright student. It can also mean vivid, like bright colors. If you only study the word without context, you will miss these different uses. That is where confusion begins. The same thing happens with the word cold. In some languages, cold only describes temperature. But in English, cold can mean many things. It can mean the weather, like it is cold outside. It can mean unfriendly, like she gave me a cold stare. And it can mean sickness, like I have a cold. If you only learn the word on its own, you will struggle to understand it in real life. So, how do we fix this? The solution is very simple. When you find a new word, always write down the entire sentence you found it in. For example, if you hear the word generous in a podcast, like he is generous with his time, write that full sentence. Do not just write generous means kind. Then, create your own sentences with the word. They do not need to be perfect. Even a silly one like my cat is generous with her fur. It is all over my couch. Helps your brain connect the word to a personal memory. Think of it like this. Learning a word without context is like trying to grow a plant without soil. It might survive for a short while, but it will never take root. But when you plant it in context, it grows strong and stable. Now let's move to the second method, writing words in a notebook. This might sound basic, but there is a powerful reason it works so well. When you write a word by hand, you are doing more than copying letters. You are engaging your brain in a special way. Think back to school. When you took notes during class, even if you never looked at them again, the act of writing helped you remember. Your hand moved, your eyes followed the pen, and your brain connected the letters to meaning. Writing by hand uses your sense of touch, the pressure of the pen, and the feel of the paper. These physical actions make memories stronger than typing on a screen. Scientists call this haptic memory. Let's say you write the word mountain in your notebook. Your brain connects the word to the physical action of writing it. This is why many people remember spelling or formulas better after writing them again and again. The movement becomes muscle memory. For English words, writing them 5 times might feel boring. But what you are really doing is building long-term memory pathways in your brain. Here is how to do this effectively. Whenever you hear a new word, maybe in a podcast, a movie, or a conversation, pause and write it down right away. Do not only write the single word. Include the whole sentence you heard. For example, frustrated. She felt frustrated when her phone froze again. Writing the full sentence does 2 important things. First, it makes you think about the meaning and how the word is used. Second, it gives you a clear example you can look back at later. Over time, your notebook becomes like your own personal dictionary, made just for your learning journey. This is especially useful for words with more than one meaning. Take the word light. The room was filled with soft light. The suitcase was surprisingly light. By writing both sentences, your brain sees the difference between light as brightness and light as not heavy. Now, maybe you are worried. What if I write it wrong? That is okay. Mistakes are part of the process. In fact, rewriting a word after correcting it makes the memory even stronger. To make this habit stick, keep a small notebook with you at all times. Spend just 5 minutes every day reviewing what you wrote. You can also use colors or symbols. For example, red for verbs, blue for adjectives. This helps your eyes catch tricky words quickly. You might ask, why not just use a phone app? The answer is that studies show handwriting activates brain areas that typing does not. Writing by hand is slower, and that slowness gives your mind extra time to absorb the shape, sound, and meaning of the word. So do yourself a favor. Get a small notebook and start writing today. Now, let's go to the third method, reading aloud. This may feel uncomfortable at first, but it is one of the best ways to make words stick in your memory. When you say a word out loud, you are not only seeing or writing it, you are also hearing it. That changes everything. Think of your brain like a network of connections. When you read silently, you only use the visual part of your brain. But when you read aloud, you add 2 more layers, the sound of your voice and the movement of your mouth. This combination of seeing, saying, and hearing makes a word much harder to forget. Imagine you wrote the sentence, "She hesitated," before answering the question. If you only read it silently, you might skim over the word hesitated. But if you read it aloud, your ears notice the rhythm and your mouth feels the syllables. You are now linking the word to a physical experience. That is why actors rehearse lines out loud. Speaking and hearing create deep memory connections. For language learners, this is extremely useful. After writing a word in your notebook, read the full sentence aloud 3 times. Focus on clarity, not speed. For example, the children giggled at the silly joke. Repeat it 3 times. The first time you may stumble. By the 3rd time, it feels natural. This is your brain building fluency. If the word has a difficult sound, exaggerate your mouth movements. Take the word thorough. Say it slowly and clearly, thorough, until your mouth remembers it. You can also create a short story with a word and read that out loud. For example, volunteer. Last week, I volunteered at a food bank. It was tiring, but I felt proud. By putting the word in a story, you give your brain a strong picture to hold on to. Pair this with the notebook method. Write the word, then read it aloud while looking at your notes. The mix of visual and auditory practice is powerful. Hello again. Let's continue with more powerful ways to make English words stick in your memory. We already talked about learning in context, writing words in a notebook, reading aloud, immersion, and practicing with real-life English. Now, it is time to go deeper into more strategies that work for different types of learners. Some of these methods may surprise you, but if you practice them consistently, you will notice a big difference in how many words you can actually remember and use in your daily life. One of the most interesting methods is using memory tricks. The technical word for this is mnemonics. It may sound a little scary, but the idea is simple. Mnemonics are shortcuts for your brain. Instead of trying to remember a word directly, you connect it to something funny, strange, or personal. Our brains love unusual images. That is why you remember the weird dream you had last night more than the boring list you wrote in class. You can use this same principle for English. For example, let's look at the word necessary. A lot of learners ask, how do I spell it? Is it 1 S or 2 S? Is the C before the S or after it? A mnemonic can help. Think of 1 coffee and 2 sugars. That means 1 C and 2 S in necessary. Suddenly, the word becomes easier to remember. Or take the difference between desert and desert. A desert is a hot, dry place with sand. Dessert is the sweet food you eat after a meal. To remember which is which, think of dessert with 2 S because you always want 2 scoops of ice cream. That funny little image locks the spelling into your brain. The trick with mnemonics is not to overuse them. You do not need them for every single word. Use them for the difficult ones, the words that always confuse you or that you keep spelling wrong. And if you cannot find a ready-made trick, make your own. The stranger and more personal the connection, the better. Imagine drawing a silly cartoon in your mind. The stronger the picture, the stronger the memory. Now, let's move to something that often scares learners. Speaking, many students say they understand English when they read or listen. But the moment they try to speak, all the words disappear. They panic, freeze, and then forget what they wanted to say. This is completely normal. Speaking uses different skills than reading or writing. When you speak, you must recall words quickly, and that takes practice. But here is the good news. You do not need a partner to start practicing speaking. You can practice with yourself. Yes, talk to yourself in English. At first, it feels strange, maybe even a little embarrassing, but it works. Imagine you are narrating your daily actions. For example, I am boiling water for tea. I am opening the fridge. I need to choose a shirt. My blue shirt looks good, but it is wrinkled, so I will iron it. This kind of self-talk is powerful because it forces you to use the words you know in real time. No pressure, no judgment, just practice. If you notice a gap, like when you cannot say a certain word, stop and look it up. Write it in your notebook, read it aloud, and then use it again later. Over time, these gaps become smaller and smaller. And if you do have a friend or partner to practice with, that is even better. It does not need to be a native speaker. Any partner is fine. 10 minutes a week of simple conversations can boost your confidence. Role play, ordering food at a restaurant. Talk about your favorite movie. Discuss which season you like most and why. The goal is not to be perfect, but to build the habit of using words out loud. Another challenge many learners face is the habit of always translating. You know what I mean? You are in the middle of a conversation. You forget a word, and you quickly open a translation app. It feels helpful in the moment, but in reality, it slows your progress. When you translate, your brain is switching between two languages instead of thinking directly in English. This creates a delay and makes it harder to recall words quickly. The better option is to use an English-to-English dictionary. For example, the Cambridge Learner's Dictionary or Merriam-Webster has simple definitions written in English. Let's say you want to understand the word frustrated. Instead of translating it into your language, read the English definition, feeling upset or annoyed because you cannot change or achieve something. Then look at the example sentence. She felt frustrated when her phone froze again. By reading this way, your brain connects the English word to an English explanation. You are training your mind to stay in English instead of switching back and forth. Now let's talk about flashcards. Many people think flashcards are old-fashioned, but they remain one of the best tools for vocabulary practice. A flashcard is simple. On one side, write the new word. On the other side, write the definition and an example sentence. The reason flashcards work is because they use active recall. Instead of just recognizing the word when you see it, you are forcing your brain to remember it. That extra effort makes the memory stronger. You can make your own flashcards with paper or use digital apps like Anki or Quizlet. But here is a tip. Do not create too many at once. If you try to memorize 50 words in one day, you will forget most of them. Start with 3 words you always forget. Practice those today. Tomorrow, add 3 more. At the end of the month, you will have more than 90 words in your active memory. It is not about speed, it is about steady growth. Flashcards also become more powerful when you shuffle them. This way, your brain does not memorize them in a fixed order, but actually learns the meaning. You can also test yourself by covering the sentence and trying to create your own. This makes the practice more active and realistic. The more you challenge your brain, the better it remembers. And finally, let's add some fun to learning. Turn your vocabulary practice into a game. When something feels like play instead of study, your brain is more relaxed and open to learning. Games also release dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, which strengthens memory. That is why you often remember song lyrics from a game or funny words from a quiz. But forget the serious list you studied yesterday. You can find many word games on your phone or online. Search for word puzzle games, crossword apps, or vocabulary challenges. Choose one you enjoy. When you are playing, you are not just passing time. You are reinforcing words in a natural and fun way. For example, if you are playing a game where you must guess letters to form the word, the pressure of the timer helps your brain recall faster. If you are competing with a friend, the excitement makes the memory stronger. You are learning without even realizing it. So far, we have covered many practical methods. From mnemonics to self-talk, from dictionaries to flashcards, and from games to conversation. Each of these techniques works in a slightly different way. But the goal is the same: to make words easier to remember and use in real life. You do not need to do all of them at once. Choose 2 or 3 that fit your lifestyle and start small. The important thing is consistency. A few minutes every day is more powerful than hours of study once a week. Now, before we move to the final section, take a moment to reflect. Which of these methods could you try today? Could you write down 3 new words in your notebook? Could you describe your morning routine in English out loud? Could you download a word game and play for 10 minutes? Small actions build big results. All right. Let's bring all of this together and talk about how you can actually put these methods into action in your daily routine. Learning English words is not only about collecting tips, it is about creating a lifestyle where English feels natural. The truth is, you don't need to spend 5 hours a day studying. What you need is smart, consistent practice. Let's explore how to build that into your life, step by step. First, make a daily plan that feels realistic. Many learners start strong but quit after a week because they set goals that are too big. Instead, aim for small, repeatable actions. For example, choose one word in the morning. Write it in your notebook. Read it aloud 3 times. And use it in a sentence before the day ends. That is it. Just one word. At first, it feels too small, but after a month, you will have 30 new words that you can actually use. That's progress. Second, connect English to your personal interests. Words are easier to remember when they come from topics you love. If you enjoy cooking, learn words from recipes. If you like football, learn sports vocabulary. If you are into technology, study words from tech blogs. Passion creates motivation, and motivation fuels
Hello everyone,
memory.
my name is Tom.
Think of
Today's English class
not
was
as a
truly
school
special.
subject,
Our teacher told
but
us to
as a
stand up
tool
and share
to
how we
explore
learn
the
English.
things
My
you
heart started
already
beating
care
fast.
about.
I looked around and
Third,
saw many of my classmates
use
looking down,
the
seeming
environment
shy. I was a
around
little
you.
nervous too, but then I thought, this is a great chance for me to share. I took a deep breath and walked to the front of the class. The whole class fell silent and watched me. I began, "Hi everyone, my name is Tom. Today I want to talk about learning English." My voice was still shaking a little. I told them about my first few days. Before, I was so scared to speak English. Every time the teacher called on me, I just wanted to disappear. I know many of you here are like me. We want to speak English better but don't know where to start. Many of my classmates nodded. Their eyes seemed to show a similar struggle. I knew they were facing the same difficulties I did. I continued. Do you want to speak English better? Then it's time to glow up your English. That means make your English stronger, better, and more confident. I paused for a moment looking into each person's eyes. Many people think you have to go to a big school or pay a lot of money to learn. But that's not true. You can start learning right at home. I talked about the simple methods I tried. You can watch English movies with subtitles. At first, I watched Disney cartoons because the dialogue was simple. Then I moved on to action movies. I listened to English songs and tried to understand the words. I read simple books or short stories in English. These small things helped me a lot. From fear to confidence, I saw many of my classmates taking notes in their notebooks. That made me feel more confident. And one more important thing, I said a little louder, is to try to speak English every day. The class started to whisper. One person quietly said, "Who can I talk to?" I smiled and answered that unspoken question. You don't need someone to talk to. You can talk to yourself in the mirror. At first, I said very simple sentences like, "I am learning English," or "Today is a good day." Each time I spoke, I felt like I was improving a little. The more you speak, the better you get. A girl raised her hand and asked, "What about when we make mistakes?" I looked at her and smiled. So what about mistakes? Everybody makes mistakes. The important thing is, don't stop. Every mistake helps you learn and grow. I made a lot of mistakes too. Once I used the wrong word and the whole class laughed. I felt so embarrassed, but the teacher told me, "It's okay, Nam, just try again." So I tried again, and this time I got it right. Mistakes are a part of learning.